We're the comedy pair that wears the same glasses.
Mother knows best. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached equilibrium. Jag tror vi kan köra igång. Action. Ska du eller jag spela in?
Jag spelar redan in.
Jaha, vad bra. Okay.
Ja,
Hello everybody. This is the incredibly professional and I don't know, not at all improvised and kind of scuffed. What do we call it? We're too lazy, you do it podcast.
We talk about being creative and most on topic not being creative, because we're both suffering right now with creator's block, and it's very annoying because we have tons and tons of ideas. That's not the problem. We come up with ideas all the time.
Yeah, very much so. It's sort of that for anyone who is interested in the Myers-Briggs stuff. There's an ENFP meme I love very much, which is there is nothing that can stop an ENFP from. There is nothing that can stop an ENFP running away from the stuff they're actually supposed to do. So basically, as soon as you sit down with one thing, it becomes an enormous chore and you hate it and then you want to do something else. But we have a huge amount of really good ideas, I promise. They're not actually shit. It's just how it feels when you sit down with them.
Yeah. And I'm an INFJ, which means I have a perpetually broken heart. And I just never feel happy. And it's very, very difficult to create when you're not happy. You're not creating from your happy place. You're creating from some sort of depressed, I wish someone would just shoot me place. Yeah. That's not always very commercial, the stuff that comes out of you when you're creating from a very, I choose my background picture very on topic. It's a car eaten by a tree. Nobody wants to buy what you create when you're feeling sad.
Sort of the thing where like this is actually a thing that's definitely been a thing for me a lot, where like obviously I'm quite young, but I've had several phases of ups and downs when it comes to just like creativity and most importantly productivity, where it's like usually on topic of being in creative ruts and sort of like how to get out of them. What's usually been the thing for me has been less about finding, this is a creative thing that inspires me to think more creatively. It's actually less that and more a thing of like when I find some kind of almost philosophical thing to lean on as a sort of support to muster the energy to do it. So it has been less about, sometimes it's, for example, I remember I got really, really, really inspired by a game called Undertale when it came out in like 2015, 16 or so, because I just thought it was such a kind game in a way, where it's like, I was very, very surprised at how something that actually encouraged you not to do the typical, killing, murdering, fighting, and it was actually like really wholesome, that could exist. And I was so touched by that it actually really gave me some hope for, generally, it gave me like a hope for the industry in general, because oftentimes I shoot down my own ideas just because I think, people are awful.
And you do that a lot, actually. You shoot down your own ideas before anyone even had a chance to make an input. But maybe I shouldn't say this. I made a promise to a person important in our lives not to get like this.
Men tagga ner lite.
Whatever.
Oh, sorry. Get on.
What's that? An idea?
I wanted to talk about when it came to games was that first-person shooters are kind of empty.
Yes.
And here's the thing. Now to explain everything. We can call this corner or this label or this section of the show Jenny Explains Things. This is how it is.
Life according to Jen.
Game developers make games for gamers. And most of the people who play games grew up on these old arcade games that actually never came to Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
And they were based on the technology that existed. And they had like these blips and blops and shooting them down. And that became more and more advanced. Shooting down blips and blops is essentially what you're still doing. It's just that the blips and blobs have become more
lifelike,
animated. Yeah.
No.
And you're missing out on a huge customer base for people who don't care about shooting down blips and blobs and want to do something other.
Yeah, it's sort of that preaching to the choir thing, in a way.
Would be, yeah. So I'm a bit older. I'm actually part of the Nintendo revolution. But I'm still bored out of my mind with most of what's available. And game developers should try to make something for everyone else. Because everyone buying a games console is better than just a few people devotedly cult following buying the next, what are they called? Metal Gear Solid game, right? It would have to make sense to get as many people as possible interested in your product than to just cater to a few devoted fans. So here's an idea for these COVID times. Idea bag.
Spitballing.
This is the first idea spit. Virtual tourist.
Oh yeah, we talked about this.
I've pitched this idea before, and I think it's safe to pitch it here in our ideas thing, because you and I are not ever going to be able to do this. We need someone else to get on board.
Sure.
But here's my idea. You do it in VR so that it feels like you're having a real experience. And you get like a vaccinated, sanitized, no risk of anything vacation at a tourist spot that you can no longer visit. So it's like, and you can choose like how much ambience you really want. Maybe you don't do it as a 360 video, but actually more like a virtual world that looks like a real world. But let's say Carnival of Venice, and I want to have the perfect Carnival of Venice experience without actually going there. So I'm seeing all these people around me with costumes, I can interact with people, I can go do the tourist thing and visit places perhaps that you're not even allowed to go to, like inside the Doge Palace or whatever. And you see and experience. The game can be really short, really 48 hours or something active time, when you at different times of day get to do different things as if you were visiting the Carnival of Venice. And it's the perfect holiday where you can, ride the gondola and hear some guy in a striped shirt sing O Sole Mio or whatever.
I mean,
it would capture everyone over the age of 45, I swear.
Oh yes, like you could definitely like I would actually like, because we've talked about this and sort of like went into a different direction at one point.
I have an idea.
which is sort of like because we were talking about this in general, that there is an increasing difficulty in maintaining physical shops at like malls and things like that, because storage space or like just storefronts are not as effective as simply just buying things online, and people are pretty drawn back. And so if you don't have something that you cannot get in the home just with the click of a button, then you're not going to be able to maintain the same just customer base in general in these malls and such. So we were talking at some point about having that, but having it more like a mixed reality situation, where it's like just like you said, like for example, you could have a restaurant or like a catering firm working in a, should we say, experience-based like location. How do you say, virtual tourist spot. So you come to this place and you put on the visor, but what you get, rather than maybe like 48 hours of like going on the entire Venice like experience, yes, you get like these like really charming tidbits. So for example, let's say you're going back to ancient Greece and you have like this virtual tour guide that tells you like about these places, and takes you around and maybe like shows you things in action, like, oh, and this is a really known speech by Aristotle as he stood in front of the disciples that then had to denounce him because he said the gods were bullshit. And like this is him taking poison. Also, did you know that this is one of the like garum, for example? And you like basically you put some food in front of them, like a food item, something that was very, very typical from the time. And like while you're in VR, you have the visor that is also sort of pass through, so you can see what you have in front of you, and you can eat a meal from like a typical table from ancient Greece, for example. Like you get to taste just a little bit.
But you're not eating it.
Yes, but you are though. The thing is, like you have like an actual like restaurant that prepares these things for the person coming in. And so both countries, like in general, like to promote tourism to like actual places in the world, where it's like, oh, hey.
No, I remember we talked about this. Like you can have restaurants or venues in places could give you like the virtual experience, and then you buy like a voucher if you ever go there in real life.
Yeah, it could be like because I think just for tourism, in general.
But I mean, like things like national parks and places that aren't really accessible, let's say for people with disabilities. That could be a thing. I mean, I would absolutely love to walk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
The Colorado Trail, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm.
From Colorado to someplace else, and it's supposed to be very scenic and very beautiful. And like, I'm never gonna get to walk it.
Sure.
It'd be great just to experience that somehow. I mean, I boot up Skyrim, and the only thing I do is just walk around and look at the view, and then defend myself if there's a wolf.
And then get seasick.
And then I get seasick because I can only do 20 minutes at the time.
Yeah, like I'm blessed to have a bad sense of balance, because I can literally be in there for 8 hours and it doesn't even faze me, other than that my face gets a little itchy from the sweat.
Yeah, but I have to put on my glasses are steaming up from the inside. But that sort of thing would appeal to everyone a little bit older. Just to have an experience, to go up in a hot air balloon and fly over something. I mean, just something like that, and it feels real. That would be an experience worth having. Just shooting stuff, so dull.
Old, yeah. I guess I will say this, because you do have a good point. And I think especially if you want to make VR much more of a household item and not just a specialty good, then really I think the way to sort of introduce it to the whole family and not just for gamers or people having virtual meetings would sort of be to have these like higher production than just these like, oh look, the Louvre museum, like just virtual music. That's
I've seen
dumb.
some of these, they absolutely suck.
Yeah, they're awful because it's just
it's even
a cash
worse
grab.
than being there for real.
Yeah,
I've been to the Louvre a few times. Humble brag. It's something like you need to be there every day for a year to see all the artworks. So most tourists don't even get to see most of what the Louvre has to offer. You have to be like really focused and just look at one thing. I think I went first to the classic tourist thing and looked at Mona Lisa. She was absolute rubbish. And from where I was standing, with like 55 tourists, all taller than me, in between me and her, it looked like I was trying to see a stamp.
Yeah.
On the wall. And it didn't do
but wouldn't you love if you just if you could get that true customer experience even in VR? Introducing Tall Tony.
It's the way everywhere.
I have an idea.
That in education, because multimedia is like just the way you bind memories together for kids. I honestly, or for anyone really, I would bet that the people who first incorporate VR and just sort of like the interactivity and the multimedia of not just reading something or writing about it or maybe seeing like a documentary from afar, like the more aspects of a memory you can take in from something, the more it will be real to you. Like I would bet that the first people who can incorporate that into like actual education will see a significant boost compared to their contemporaries.
Absolutely.
Because I would genuinely love to just I have a VR set here. I hardly use it anymore because there aren't all that many VR experiences that like really speak to me. But if I could just go on to like some kind of storefront where I could buy virtual reality documentaries, I would never take it off.
Next level idea bag, spit. What are we calling it? Obelisk.
The next spitball. So we don't get full of ourselves.
Augmented reality. If I had like augmented glasses with instruction in the corner, I need a compass to tell me which way I'm headed. Just to be able to use a GPS. Have you ever noticed that GPSs are absolutely worthless if you don't know what direction you're headed? You need a compass with your GPS. Why doesn't GPS come with a compass? Drives me nuts.
In Swedish, you could call it the kompass kompis.
Yeah. Compass. How?
Compass. Yeah. You will be happy to hear that this is like on the verge of existing already. They're called XR glasses. So it's like rather than augmented, XR, if I'm remembering correctly, is extended reality. I might be wrong. And the two people who watch this later, aside from us, can tell me I'm stupid in the comments.
Yeah. Also, the people who know where the compass is for your phone. Oh, it's this app, you nerd.
Right.
I need that. And also something else that I need is what if there was like a step counter?
Because I have a friend who will not be named, but she knows who she is if she ever watches this. And she goes to art school. And she's like actually a talented painter. Like she puts a lot of work into like making good things. and she was taken in as a reserve on the course she was getting into now, like Konstfack. I don't even know what would it be called, Artist Guild.
Yeah, well, the finest art school in the entire nation, the artsy fartsy school.
Yeah. But like, so really for her, she was like, you know, she really put a lot of effort into her portfolio, and she said in retrospect that was probably what made her a reserve, because when she looked at like the other people who would be in her class, they would be like straight line on a white board, and like you know, these like totally like hoity-toity artsy fartsy bullshit spewers that like she could tell very much, like, you know, when she was making things, she got high grades when she bullshitted and low grades really when she put effort into it,
And she tried.
because it really came down to, okay, are you able to fabricate meaning in bullshit? If you are, then you are part of us, lady, and if you're not, then you're part, then you know, you're bougie. No, you're not bougie, you're below bougie.
This goes back to Bourdieu and his cultural capital.
Did you say his name again?
Bourdieu, it's a French. Some new classes, like we're familiar with Karl Marx and his working class.
Sure, yeah, that.
He made a different classification where he talks about 1, 2, 3. And in one of these classes, I forget which number he gives them, you have a high cultural capital.
Yeah.
Usually you're dirt poor, or maybe you were born into money, but you don't make any money. But you have a high cultural capital. So you can talk about your black line on a white paper and put that in context to a lot of other artworks. And everything you do is like a wink. Intertextualitet.
Yeah, yeah.
To some other existing artwork, and it becomes like one more sentence in a long book about some bullshit.
Yeah, because everything is supposed to just relate back to itself. But the thing is that both when you're only relating back to yourself, you're not really creating anything new. Like the point of like intertextuality is supposed to be, oh, this is a big like long running conversation over hundreds of years of like, you know, creators adding to the discussion. But really what it comes down to a lot of the time is, no, you're stinky, no, you're stinky, this earlier person was stinky, you know, they're racist, no, they're sexist, no, they're actually wrong because they're actually racist and sexist, but I'm not because I'm cool. Also it's, you know, it's just dumb.
And just producing something attractive is,
you're just deconstructing it.
No, it has no value.
Yeah.
Being technically capable means nothing. We're gonna ruin things for people. It's my turn or your turn to talk?
Probably your turn, but I can take the brunt if you'd like.
No, I can start. I can start by ruining your childhood. I'm going to explain to you why Oliver Twist doesn't make any sense. First, I have to make a little pre-example. Like in the era when Charles Dickens was writing, it was believed that people were evil, bad, and did crime because they were born wrong. And people who were born wrong on the wrong side of the railroad tracks, they were just criminally inclined because they were born to be. So he wanted to write a story about a boy who was born wrong, but was not a criminal.
Groundbreaking stuff.
Yeah, like
wow.
It's just that knowing just a little bit about human psychology, you begin to understand that there was no possible way for Oliver Twist to turn out good, because all of the things that happened to Oliver. I don't know how much of this is in the movies. Most of people know about Oliver from movies. And
I'd say most of my generation knows about him from the meme. Please, sir, may I have some more? And that's about it.
Yeah. So let me explain about Charles Dickens' story. I believe it was published as a novelization, like an episode at a time in a magazine or a weekly gazette or something like that.
I think
And
in the newspaper.
a complete story until later. Most of his work was written like this. And that was absolutely not unusual for writers in the 19th century. This is how it was mostly done.
Yeah.
He has Oliver born to an unwed mother who dies in childbirth. And he is taken to an orphanage where he's treated like crap. And please, sir, can I have some more? He's starved. And the only reason he goes, I think he goes up to ask for more food because a bully has taken all his food. So he is, he's literally not had any dinner. He is not ever taught about anything. He doesn't go to school. He is not taught how to read, I think. He is expected to know a lot of things about Christianity without him ever having gone to church or having had any kind of instruction to know how that whole deal works. He is then sent out to work when he is about 10 or 11. I think maybe he's even younger. He could be 9. And he works as an apprentice to an undertaker. And he gets to sleep in the room with the coffins and the dead bodies. He is also mostly employed to assist with the funerals of children because, it'll make people more sad and more inclined to give tips or something. I don't know. For some reason, the undertaker wants to have Oliver with him when he's burying children. So poor Oliver, he's surrounded by horror 24/7. And then he breaks into a larder, I think, and steals something to eat. And now he's severely punished and beaten, and he's like 9. So,
Not enough, I say. Cut off his hands.
yeah. I'm saying with a background like this, it is impossible for him to turn into this little goody two-shoes that he later becomes. He's on his way to somewhere when he's picked up by the pickpocket Fagin. And he is a part of this ragtag team of little boys. Dodger takes him under his wing, and he's with these street scruffs. And I suppose she is a sex worker, Nancy. She is the kindest, prettiest girl he's ever met, and she's like a stand-in mother figure for him, the first truly kind woman he's ever met. Her on and off boyfriend, Bill Sykes, who is a housebreaker, takes Oliver with them to break into a house. And here is where Oliver all of a sudden catches religion that he's never been taught about, and rules that he's never been instructed in, and the knowledge about how society works when nobody's ever taught.
And a loyalty to authority that really should not have been there, I would assume.
Exactly. He feels a loyalty to authority that has never been on his side.
Yeah.
And he is rescued then by the wealthy man who takes him in and takes care of him. But everyone says that this wealthy man, he's going to be betrayed by this little boy, murdered in his sleep, and housebreakers are going to come and kill him. But he says, no, this boy is noble. Just look at his little face.
Does that look like a mongrel to you? Look at his little cheeks, so hollow.
Probably should. So after all these horrors that poor Oliver has been through, I think that it's completely unrealistic for him to side with the wealthy man and the authorities and everyone that has treated him so badly all his life. I
Yeah.
think he should have sided with Bill and make Bill his role model and Dodger his best friend, and he should have stayed with the pickpockets and the housebreakers and the street walkers, and just loved it. And he would have turned in to be like the super gangster, like the Croy brothers, except only him and Dodger, and like be a crime boss. He was a little Al Capone.
So basically, something that like genuinely really annoys me about, especially like the Harry Potter movies, is as a kid when I had like no taste, then the movies were great because I've read the books and everything that was on page is here. It's actually not at all. Like I look at them now and it's like how was there seven of these? Sorry, eight. Because like even the best one, which is number three, Fight Me, is like it's rushed. Like you can tell that all these the directors that had to make these really had to like push the plot forward because Rowling, especially something that the two of us have not necessarily griped about before, but just talked about, is that she likes to take her time when she's exploring the world and she's going through the story. Like she doesn't just want to go pang boom flash. She wants to draw it out because she wants it to sort of be this like the full year of the Potter boy's life. And it's sort of just like I really appreciate that. You cannot push that into a movie. And so what has to happen is either you cut a lot of like content. So for example, like in Prisoner of Azkaban, like all the context about Aunt Marge early, the aunt he blows up, like that entire sequence is like 4 minutes or something from the point that they start to her flying up in the sky after calling his dad and mom mongrels or something. No, yeah, just bad breeds. Your mom's a bitch.
Alcoholics and bad blood. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like you lose the whole thing about like all of these little teeny like characterizing subplots. Like, oh yeah, Dudley is is actually like sucking up to Aunt Marge because his dad is paying him. Like that is completely lost, or just like the relationship he's had with Marge, where like she as a kid, she would stick her little pit bull on him just for the fun of it, and she would always make fun of him, and like none of that is established. Like none of these like social things where you really get to like get a feel for the characters, which is like a lot of the time the fun thing about the Harry Potter movies, or not the movies, what the movies get wrong but the books are good at. That like the whole thing about Harry Potter is you sort of like blend into the world. Like that's why people love it, and you are open to ignoring a lot of plot holes and a lot of like weirdness because people really like the building lore and everything around the world because it's very charming. Uh, if you remove the charm, which is the redeeming point for the most part, I would say, of the series, then all you have is a very tight plot with a very, very, usually at the very least, a very passive main character, other than the first two books, where he sort of is just sort of like stumbling into stuff happening. Again, don't at me or fight me, whatever. I don't care. Harry, as much as I loved to read him as a kid because he was a good set of pants you could, just take into the world, he should not have been the main character, really. Like, he's not that charismatic. Like, especially, like, okay, in the movies, he's the worst.
For another day, what supportive character should have been the main in this story?
Yeah.
We'll collect a few examples.
I would need to go back and just sort of check like book wise like how engaged he is in the story. Then I might take a step back, but usually, like especially in the movies, Harry is not a good character in the movies.
No.
And Ron is completely shafted, so.
Another classic pair of pants who isn't really the main character. Everything would happen with or without their participation, is Indiana Jones.
Hmm.
Things just sort of happen around him without him as
Yeah.
a catalyst of anything. And it's not his desires and wants and needs that is driving the plot forward. I always think the main character is the person that has a desire, that wants something.
Yeah. Otherwise, you have this like static, boring motherfucker who does nothing really, other than you become a damn. I knew the term for this because I took a course in literature analysis. Uh, let's see. There are mimetic characters. There are mimetic copies life. There are functional characters. There might be another term actually in English. I took it in Swedish, so pinch of salt.
What I just
Uh,
catalyst that makes things happen.
yeah, they just push the plot.
Yeah.
And you have thematic characters that push like a symbolism, so to say. And you can, of course, you can meld in and out of it, but like a lot of the time, they represent a theme of sorts. So you can be an active character and you can be plot while also being thematic, but like depending on like what they lean towards most, you can often tell, at least in good works of fiction, what they are and what they're supposed to represent. And so you get this like meta thing as well. That is usually very good. What I'm saying here is that Harry, for the most part, because he is not necessarily always very engaged, he's sort of this like passive, either like in the movies, I would say definitely he is mostly just a functional character. Like he has very little personal will. He's just sort of like, he receives it and he goes to do it. And he vaguely represents this sort of like childhood and things that come of that. While in the books, I will say he's a bit more fleshed out in that sense. He's more thematic as a character at the very least, for this like young adult moving through life. But on the whole, he's functional, I would say.
Well, I've said this before, and I'll fight it till the end. I think Neville Longbottom should have been the lead in this in this whole adventure.
Yeah, I can see it.
It's something like, and I think this is spoilers, something that comes towards the end of the books, maybe even in the last of the books, that Dumbledore and Harry Potter are having a convo about Harry being selected by Voldemort to be his adversary because he identifies with him more. A prophecy about the boy that would destroy Voldemort could just as easily have been about Neville. But because Voldemort chose Harry as his adversary, Harry was it. And it might as well have been Neville.
Yeah.
And that to the end have this, what's behind door number 2? To me is really fascinating. And I started to rewrite the books in my brain with Neville as the main character. What if
which is a fun fanfic.
This is the story we would have had, and Harry would have been this annoying side character. He would have been Neville's Ron.
It would have actually been kind of funny if it's sort of like this, like I've never actually seen Mr. Magoo or whatever, but sort of this like thing where it's like Neville does all the heavy lifting and Harry gets the credit. Like just in itself, with that's kind of funny. I think the reason why you would want to use Harry just sort of like as a outside in, because I agree that in retrospect, when you've been introduced to the world and everything, Neville seems in a lot of ways more interesting to have as a point of view character.
And also a more interesting character to explore this wizarding world, because he's in it. He's born in it, and he knows everything about it.
See, that is the problem, though, when it comes to exposition. So it works when you know the world somewhat,
But
and you
he
can.
has to explain it to his Muggle friends, Harry and Hermione,
Oh, sure.
who don't know anything. And that's another thing that makes the movies not work. When Hermione is mansplaining everything, she's a Muggle. She
Yeah, like
explain it.
yeah, it shouldn't be her. Yeah. Uh, yeah, yeah, I'm with you.
She's not even a
Uh,
man. She should definitely not be allowed to mansplain. She's Muggle-splaining the wizard.
yeah, right. Like, yeah, really. Like, I mean, we've talked about this before. Hermione gets way too much screen time, especially in the movies. If we're gonna be like that, like,
She's too
yeah,
pretty.
like
Emma Watson.
she's too. Oh
Emma,
yeah, she's too pretty. Yeah.
a whole thing about Hermione was that she wasn't very attractive, and that she needed magic and Madame Pomfrey to do magic on her to look good for her party with going to the dance with what's his face, Victor Crumb.
Yeah, Victor Crummy, more like it. Team Ron all the way. No, but not really though.
Yeah, Team Ron. Oh my God,
uh,
Ron.
yeah, but like
The last chapter of the last book, Ron's revenge.
yeah, he got her back.
I only confounded him a little bit.
Because like it's like in the books, like Hermione is not good looking. Like there's this thing where she's like, oh, buck teeth Hermione, with the fucking beaver teeth and like like this
The
huge,
wild
and she like
curly hair. Where's
yeah.
Hermione's wild curly hair? I think
Well,
we accomplished a lot today.
sure. We've at least been able to waste like how many hours of someone's life. But I hope it was fun regardless.
I have lots of things to do and I don't really have time for this.
Hmm?
But I enjoyed it anyway. So thanks a lot. See you next time.
See you next time, party peeps.